Hey everybody, welcome back to day two. So today we're going into the tools of the mind, body, spirit as we're cultivating this new discipline, this practice of these tools. And we're really talking about activating and optimizing the mind, body, spirit aspects of the self with these tools. And I'm super excited to have my next guest on, Brian Coones, dear brother. We met, I guess it's been a couple of years now, Brian, and we did some breathwork journeying together. And Brian's a stress and mindfulness and meditation coach, and he's going to be talking about how we can actually manage our stress for success. So, welcome, Brian. Thank you so much for doing this. Super grateful to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Lee. Thank you so much for the kind words. Yeah, and I'll just jump right in and share my screen. Right. Okay, sure. All right. Well, it doesn't seem to want to do the slideshow, so I'll just take it from there. Can you see that okay? Oh,
Yeah, that works.
There we go. Got it. All right. Okay, so before we start, and whenever I do talks and to different people, I've always had people stop just to take a couple breaths. Whatever you were doing a minute ago, this is a great way just to bring yourself into the moment. So just take a deep breath in through the nose. Let it go. Another full deep breath in, filling the belly. Let it go. And one more deep breath fully in. And let it go. Soften the shoulders on the out breath. And I usually always remind people as well that we take over 20,000 breaths a day. Most of those breaths for most people are completely unconscious. So stopping to take one conscious breath, if nothing else you take from this, is a very important thing to be aware of. So stress, as Lee alluded to, I help people with stress. Stress is something that everybody can relate to. So this is a great doorway into what I'm going to speak about. The World Health Organization has called stress the health epidemic of the 21st century. And they say something like 3/4 of people are overwhelmed by stress at least once a week. And if you're somebody who has suffered from the effects from stress, from chronic stress, you know how sick stress can make you, how quickly your body and mind can break down. When people think about stress, however, they usually think something out there. So I hear all the time, well, you know, my boss or my partner, the economy, you know, there's a number of stressors out there. There's a number of things, but stress is really our inability to accept the present moment as it is. Life is happening all the time. It's literally our stored experiences accumulated over our lifetime, right from childhood to this point, which literally create I like to use the analogy of a river that flows through us. Life is like a river. We put these rocks into the river over time with these experiences that create a strong feeling in the body. And really, the idea with stress is to accept that as an inside job. We can all do our own work to reduce our stress, give ourselves more space to be able to handle things on the outside. And there's practices and techniques around that. But really, the first thing is just owning the fact that stress is an inside job and it's your responsibility to do this work for yourself. All those other things on the outside are just lessons and not necessarily the issue. Now, the problem is for many of us is that we lack awareness of our state from moment to moment. Unlike driving your vehicle down the highway, the engine light comes on and you know very quickly you need to pull off and get service. For our bodies and minds, however, many of us are not aware of those signs. We're not aware that we're really at that limit of our window of tolerance to certain things. We're right on that line of potentially stepping over. I mean, it's not hard to see people, going back to the analogy of traffic, just driving down the street. You forget to signal or something. You see people going off instantly, just like that. They're triggered. That's somebody who is right on that line and may not be aware of it. So I'm going to be talking about awareness throughout this presentation because awareness is so important. Awareness literally is the greatest agent for change. And I love that quote from Eckhart Tolle, and it's one that resonates with me way back when I started this work until now. So I want to share a little bit about my story, why I'm doing what I'm doing now, why this is such a passion for me. And I hope that maybe this can be something that relates to you in your own story, in your own life. Okay. When I was younger, okay, let's say we're all younger, like let's say for Brian, I have a picture of myself at like 5 years old. There's that part of us that feels like we're connected to everything. We're in perfect flow and harmony with the world. We believe we can become anything. For myself, fast forwarding a couple of years, I grew up with a lot of physical abuse, a lot of emotional and mental abuse. I grew up not feeling seen and not feeling heard. I grew up not, let's say, I wasn't like a severely abused child where somebody who grows up in that situation may have done some therapy or done some work or been much more aware of that. I actually grew up to a point where I looked back at my childhood and thought everything was great. I looked at those pictures of myself in those younger years, but something happened to me throughout that part of my life, through those impressionable years. And we've all had certain things that happen to us, whether we're conscious or unconscious of those things as adults. And for myself, it wasn't until years later that I realized that little Brian was still there. And part of the way I was behaving as an adult was directly correlated to the fact that little guy was still there. And so for me, I took some of the anger that created, I took some of those suppressed feelings and emotions and that I was pushing down because I didn't have the ability to communicate those things at the time. And I thought, I'm going to channel this into showing everybody how great I am. And I want to be loved by everybody. I went through to become an engineer. I had a very successful career at a short period of time before becoming an entrepreneur. And so I seemed to be able to rack together some successes at that time. And everything for me was external. I needed to look a certain part. I needed to have the friends, to go to the right parties, to have the certain financial success. And then I thought I'd feel loved. I thought that character that I created for myself was going to put me in that place. And really, when I got there, I felt completely disconnected from myself, not even knowing what that meant. I was feeling depressed. I was feeling anxious. I was feeling angry. I was insecure as ever. I needed that external validation to feel complete and to feel whole. And for me, I began to abuse substances to make myself feel better about myself, but also to overcome the anxiety and the depression that I was feeling from day to day. And so in that place, I felt that was where I could just forget about everything, numb all those parts of me that I hadn't worked on. And it cost me eventually an accidental drug overdose, 3 days in ICU. It almost took me out, and really, that was kind of a blessing in disguise for me, because that was a wake-up call for me to actually say, okay, you know what, I need to start to do this work. I had started before that. I had started to study meditation a little bit because I'd felt that pull to do something. Numbers were a big thing for me. I was seeing 11s everywhere. So that had started me on that path. But what I was doing was dabbling. I was doing a little bit of the work, and then I would go back on the dark side, doing a little bit of the work. And this was where I was stuck for quite a while. I eventually joined the Mindfulness Center. That was actually my first formal step into this work. And that was going back about a dozen years now. And under Dr. Stefan Trevaux, I did a mindfulness-based stress reduction program. And then from there, I just really fell in love with training the mind and meditation, and really started to get into that work. This basically coincided just as me becoming a father not long after this. And one other thing that's so important for everybody who wants to make a change and who may be stuck in a pattern that's not serving you, or you're telling a story to support whatever pattern that is. Having a why, and sometimes having that why being greater yourself, is such an important thing to keep you going when it's tough. It keeps you going on those days that you don't want to put your feet on the floor a little bit earlier and do that work. For me, my why is my children, because I didn't have that self-love at that point, and I still work on that to this day. But the love wasn't there for me to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to do it for me. So I'm going to do it for them. So that was the other part of it. And then I also want to share that I lost a brother to mental health. And this is going back about 5 or 6 years ago. I was doing this work, but I wasn't able to do enough for him. And and as I'll share later, like it's about getting stuck. Sometimes we go far off the path and we can get stuck, and Ben got stuck. And so this has been another big part of my why, but also why my purpose and passion is to help people with mental health. Because with these tools I'm going to share, with the work that we're going to talk about, we can all improve no matter where we're at today with a deliberate practice. So I want to talk about thoughts, because thoughts, going back to stress, is a big part of stress. It's not the thing that happens so much, it's the narrative that we create about that thing. It's the judgment and the story, and that story starts to weave into a rumination, which can then become a feeling and an emotion. So our thoughts are triggering all these things all the time. If we don't have the awareness of that, then we can misinterpret thoughts as facts. So thoughts are not facts. That's one thing people may not realize at times. Thoughts, they come unconsciously sometimes. They're secretions of the brain. They come from the body. They come from a number of places. People don't know exactly where they come from, but we get about 60,000 of those a day. Of those 60,000, we have a strong negative bias because we're wired for survival and not happiness. And those thoughts repeat day over day over day. So what happens if I'm not aware of my thoughts, if I'm not doing any kind of practice to be watching my mind, those thoughts arise, and often they're negative. Those thoughts arise, they're negative. And then if I don't act on it, I'm wondering why I'm starting to feel something about it. That feeling becomes an emotion. That emotion creates a mood, and it affects the action that I take. And that action and that negativity creates more of that. So it's very important to know that thoughts are not facts, but thoughts are things. There's a book by Earl Nightingale, one of the first books sort of in this topic back in the 40s or 50s. It's called The Strangest Secret. And the whole book comes down to this: we become what we think about. So being aware that thoughts are not facts with awareness, and then noticing the thoughts we actually start to inject with consciousness into our thinking, it changes everything. Now, I won't get into in the scope of this into the reticular activating system in the brain. There's a filter in the brain that actually filters out things based on what we're thinking. So there's a biological aspect to it. There's also an energetical aspect as well. Thoughts literally project a frequency, and what that frequency is what shows up in our life. So thoughts are not facts, but thoughts are things. So we must choose wisely. So how do we gain more awareness? How do we become more aware of those thoughts? Well, mindfulness is awareness. Awareness is mindfulness. Those two things are synonyms of each other. And then the equanimity is the key to this. So how do we maintain a peaceful state within, regardless of all the things that are happening on the outside, all those stressful things on the outside? How do we stay calm on the inside? The very first year I was at the Mindfulness Center, I walked up to Dr. Trevaux and I said, Dr. T, I want to be enlightened. And he just looked at me and chuckled and basically said, never mind enlightenment right now, just become unfuckwithable. That's another word for equanimity. And it means just to be peaceful on the inside, being able to create enough space that I can respond skillfully to what happens in life rather than reacting instinctually.
Brian,
So,
can
yeah,
can you go into maybe some of the tools? I know you've mentioned like mindfulness and you mentioned meditation.
yeah.
Would you be able to go into some of the tools?
Perfect timing. So top 3 science-based tools to manage stress, gain awareness, and emotions. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on sleep, diet, and exercise, but if you're not taking care of those 3 things, that is the foundation for physical and mental health. Sleep is considered to be the top of the food chain. So getting enough sleep every night is important, but if we're not moving the body enough, we're not getting enough deep sleep. And if we're not putting the right fuel in there, it's important to be aware of that in your own life. Meditation and breath work. Meditation, as I mentioned, mindfulness meditation is a type of meditation, but at the end of the day, meditation just means to become familiar with. taking time every single day just to sit with your own thoughts and your own feelings and really sit with those, as uncomfortable as that might be. Now, I love breath work in combination with meditation. Breath work basically means I'm using the breath in a conscious pattern to create a certain feeling in the body, but it's a way of resourcing the body into the safety system. So by doing some cycles of breathing, I can put my mind and body at ease and then segue into a meditation. So really the difference is breath work is consciously breathing in patterns. Meditation is more of observing the breath and just observing what is happening within on the inside. Deliberate cold exposure is another wonderful practice, and this is a very polarizing one for people, but everybody is taking a shower every day, hopefully. And if you are, you have an opportunity every day to do a little bit of work on your stress response. Every time that cold water hits you, if you're in the shower, I always encourage people who have never done this before, if you're having a warm shower, turn it cold. Just get in there and start to work that through your body a little bit. What happens? Well, a stress response is created. Your heart rate goes up, your breathing goes up. You start to hyperventilate a little bit, depending on where you're at. You can overcome that with the breath, calming the body. And in 30 or 45 seconds, you overcome that stress response. So every single day I get in the shower, I have an opportunity to train my nervous system to overcome that stress response. It's the same response if a bear came plowing through the window right now, or if somebody flips me off in traffic. And if that's my trigger, it's creating that same response. I'm overcoming it with the mind and the breath every time. And I just wanted to share this too, because this is, this is something that's is powerful. This is somebody that sent this to me recently, and she had severe PTSD. She was attacked by a dog and had her face literally torn off. She had to have it reconstructed. It was a horrible thing, but she's been doing the cold, and every time she gets in the cold, she is guided by the fact that she needs to find comfort in being uncomfortable. This delays her seizure activity. When she's feeling stuck, anxious, she doesn't love herself, she's able to visit the breath work, and it's really something that's saved her. And she's tried medication, she's tried all those things. We're talking simple things, breath and cold, two things that we have access to all the time that we don't typically give a lot of weight to because it's no cost. Another no-cost practice that is also amenable to neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity means that we can literally reshape our brain through our thoughts, through our feelings, is the power of gratitude. We all know somebody who walks around and seems to be way up here all the time in great gratitude. And regardless of where you're at, by practicing gratitude, and by practicing, I mean like writing down a few things that you're grateful for every day, and then taking it a step further, being very precise about how that thing makes you feel and trying to embody that feeling of gratitude. You're creating a different state change in your day. It's the dark days that this is very important. So if you're having one of those days, you're waking up, you're not feeling grateful at all, this practice is wonderful. Practice this for 6 weeks and you will notice a difference. And it's something that will start to work its way into your life in other areas. You can always find something to be grateful for. And when you're in a state of gratitude, you can't be angry. You can't be anxious or depressed. It's one of those things that really puts us into that present moment. It creates a very powerful feeling. And it's a very simple concept, but again, like the cold and the breath, it's not something that we might give enough weight to because it is it's free. So I always leave people with an exercise, and it's called stop. And if there's anything that you can take away from mindfulness, it's this. It's as simple as this. It's about stopping throughout your day. And this is a 1 to 2 minute practice that creates mindfulness. Stop what you're doing. I say stop. I mean, put your phone down, stop moving your arms and legs. This is a door of avoidance to the brain when we're moving and fidgeting. Stop moving just for a second. Take some space and take a breath, just like we started. Just a few deep breaths. There's other short practices you can do, physiological sigh breathing, 4-7-8 breathing. There's a number of things that you can find that you can do in 1 minute that just changes your state and brings you back into the moment. And then right after that breath, observe all your experiences. This is mindfulness. When I notice What am I thinking right now? How am I feeling right now? What's that self-talk? What's the hamster doing on the wheel right now? Am I judging myself? Just noticing it all, just bringing yourself back into the moment, breaking out of that thinking pattern, and then proceeding with awareness. I have people set a reminder to do this. So you can set a notification on your phone, put a sticky note on the mirror where you brush your teeth, one on the fridge. It's a 1 to 2 minute practice done a couple times a day. Well, here's the kicker. If you practice this over a period of time, what happens is you start to do it automatically. Then you're breaking that pattern. You're becoming more mindful. You're bringing yourself back into the present more often. And,
So,
you know,
brother, so good, so good. I'm gonna we have to wrap.
yeah,
But I want to ask you, what does peak performance mean to you?
peak performance to me, that's a great question. I would say it is really when I'm fully in alignment with what's happening in my body, with what's happening around me. And my nervous system and my mind are more of in an expanded state. The opposite of that would be contraction. When I'm feeling tight, when I'm feeling pressure, I'm not in the moment, I'm ruminating, I'm stuck in the past, I'm stuck. So in the present moment, feeling fully expanded, feeling healthy and alive, feeling grateful. When I'm in that, when all of those ingredients of the recipe come together, that's peak for me. And I think that's when we are all able to do our best work.
I love that. I love that. And I imagine we didn't get to go through your entire presentation, but I think what you shared was incredibly beautiful, and I really love the tools that you shared, and that really is what day two is all about, is finding those tools, right? So identifying where you are, anybody who's listening, identifying where you are in your process, and then really leveraging the tools that Brian went into and mentioned, so that you can feel better, you can have more energy, you can shut off the kind of the monkey mind, and come into a greater level of present moment awareness. And then that's when everything kind of opens up for you. So um, again, Brian, I know you have so much more to share, but I'd love for you to share how people can connect with you, anything that you're kind of doing in the world right now, coaching or classes. I know you do run retreats and that sort of thing as well. So just how can people get a hold of you, and what is it that you have going on in the world?
Yeah. Well, I just put up a slide there with my it's briancoones.com and my Instagram and email are there. I'm also on LinkedIn, but yeah, right now I'm working mostly helping companies and organizations with this in groups, but I work with individuals one-on-one as well. And it honestly, if I could just share this with everybody, I mean, it's the work really is doing the work, and so I'm often there to kind of create a guideline and keep people accountable. But at the end of the day, it's really just a matter of putting in the reps. If you've done you've trained for something for the gym or whatever, that you don't get there in a day, but you'd be surprised what you can do and where you're at. And when you do get yourself out of that mode of stress, how you get into those peak states, just the acceleration of what happens in your life is beautiful. And so it's just a wonderful path to be on.
Absolutely. More isn't better, better is better, and better leads to more.
Like that.
Yeah. Beautiful, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for your genius, for taking your time and energy to share with us today, and everything that you're doing in the world, man. It's truly an honor, and I'm super grateful for you.
Thanks, Lee. Same to you, brother.
Thanks all. So stay tuned. We've got lots more today, and then don't forget, we've got another day tomorrow. So we'll be back with our next speaker in just a few moments.